Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and it's great to have Cecilia here. You're somebody that's been an innovator in this incredibly exciting AI space, and you've been using AI to build professional grade 3D solutions, which I think is a really important area because it can take a lot of time to build typical 3D solutions. You can go through a whole lengthy process with somebody designing something and refining it, and you've tried to just automate this as much as possible. And I think it's incredibly important to focus on that area. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your journey.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. Hey everyone, I'm Cecilia Shen, and really nice to be here. And thank you for inviting me. We're dedicated in building 3D professional solutions, especially for the entertainment industry. And lately, we've been finding that we have great tractions on the robotics, and then all the industries that could be using simulations as well. So yeah, happy to chat more today.
Awesome. So you've had a background in mathematics. Why was that, the kind of the best place for you to start to eventually get, to this area here?
You mean the 3D simulation area?
Well, just even in general, like you majored in mathematics, that seemed to be a great interest of you. Like, is that really such a core piece of AI? And how does that kind of help set you up for what you're building now?
Yeah, so my journey in technology began with the robotics when I was when I was young,
Mhm.
and throughout the entire journey in the robotics, I actually realized when I was really young, like how important 3D it is, because the robotics, um, like you need to really develop the eye for that. You really need the robotics to understand the world, to understand the whole, how does the world has been going on, and to perceive it, to understand it, to like really turn them into the programming. So then I started to think about what can we really do to build a brain on the robotics using the 3D simulation and what's has been perceiving from the eyes. And then when I was 16, I was actually competing and winning in the global stage in terms of the robotics. So I earned multiple international robotics championships and etc like that. And that's when I actually get inspired to the tech industry. And then got into mathematics because mathematics serves as the foundation of the AI technology. Went to
Mhm.
the Google Secret Lab. In the Google Secret Lab, I was also developing robotics, but it's more of like robotics for agriculture and nutrition, where we also use a lot of the 3D simulation there in terms of like planet and weeds and fruits and food and etc. And then the generative AI makes me think more in terms of like how do we bring 3D to another level. And that's when I started the company with my co-founder. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, mathematics definitely serves as the foundation, and 3D is definitely what I've been passionate about.
So you were already thinking, Cecilia, as a kid about how we can make the robot have a brain. Like this was something already interesting to you.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, for sure. At that time, robots and the robot that we're developing this time is like humanoid robot, for example, is very different. But you can see how the transformation will be going for the future.
Mhm. What was it like working at Google X? I mean, I think you were the youngest AI solutions engineer there. Google X is known to have some pretty interesting, innovative projects come out of it. What was that experience like for you to work there?
Such a great experience. It's probably the one of the best times in my life.
Uh-huh.
So in the Google X, got to really work. So first of all, I think the most important thing is that you can work on the end-to-end project, because Google X is like an incubator. It's like a
Mhm.
startup school, and you there you got to really talk to customers. You figure out what the real world problem is, and then you're
Mhm.
trying to find a solution for that, and then you're trying to bring it to the customers and then sell it there. So the whole cycle of a business is really you get a chance to really touch base there. That's why a lot of the people after Google X, they choose to become an entrepreneur because they're really inspired
Uh-huh.
there. Also, in there you can choose where you wanted to dive deep. So for example, you can dive deep into AI, or you can dive deep into robotics, like hardware or something. Like you can actually find what's you think is more important when it comes to the problem, and then just to dive deep into the solution there.
Hmm. So you were very entrepreneurial at Google X, and there was a lot of people that had that kind of mindset too. Were you already thinking about the idea for what you're building now at Google X? Like, how did you land on this specific idea?
Yeah, I wasn't like so when I was in Google X, as I said, I was also working on robotics, and then
Mhm.
3D is always been one of the most important part where everybody talks about it. But then like we didn't really have a great solution back then, like back to like years and years ago. And then I was working on some of the projects there, but it's confidential, like using simulation technologies. And then I was just thinking, like simulation right now, it's still a small market, but how can we bring it to like a larger market? So for example, 3D fundamentally, it can be served for so many industries. It can be served for entertainment, for gaming, for future humanoid robots, for autonomous driving vehicles, for like more and more creators in the future. So then I start to think about like if there's a person like or a company or like a group of the people, they can join force together to develop just a technology of 3D, and everybody in the world, they can like really in the future like use that technology to create something great, whether the eyes for the humanoid robots to understand more to the world, whether the eyes to the drone technology to understand what really happens,
Mhm.
whether the they like for some of the young people, they could, or like young creators, they can create like professional great content. It has a much more bigger impact than what I was working on back then. So that really inspired me to really think, this is a big problem in the world that's waiting for a team to solve.
Mhm. And what led you to take the jump to leave Google X and launch this full on?
Yeah, it was my co-founder now, but it was the head of research at Mineral, at Alphabet Company. And then he said that, you should just do it. And then
Mhm.
he was kind of just push me and push me and push me until like I said, okay, I think I'll give it a try. Yeah.
That's great. Sometimes you need someone like that. Just make it happen, and that's it's
Yeah,
good you found
exactly.
this guy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you focused on assembling cohesive functional scenes, and that's like a big differentiator of what you do. How does the technology work? How are you able to do this so much better than the previous examples that have been out there?
Yeah, so the approach that we're taking is probably getting to, like technical side. So the approach that we're taking is more called layout. And that's being something that we're focusing on the technology
Mhm.
wise. And what we do is that we, like we're good at formalizing the environment. So for
Mhm.
example, instead of just purely generate an object, an environment or something like that, what we do is to really observe what should be the layout is of an environment based on the culture, based on the understanding to the world, based on the history and everything. And we and then we can like based on a text prompt or image, we like choose the correct asset and then place them to the correct place, and that is like what we're really good at. So taking that as approach, and going forward, we can even generate more controllable video, and
Mhm.
it could really change the whole in video industry too, and in terms of like also creating industry and simulation industry. So 3D not only as an output but also as a middle step to video is definitely something that we think is the unique part.
Mhm. So you're able to just do now like text to kind of generate full scenes and understand what the scene should be like. I mean that seems to be pretty complicated.
It's very complicated. Yes, it's very complicated. Um, but what we think is most importantly is the result, like the
Mhm.
result that you're generating. And sometimes like we're also like trying to balance between, is it getting too complex, then the majority of the people or like the creators cannot really adopt it because it's too complex. Sometimes people just don't want like no-brainer tools. But then at the same time, when you talk to a lot of the professionals, and when you talk to a lot of the like the actual like they want industrial solutions creator group, they want the steps to be as much controllable as possible. So at first, when we started the company, we were balancing between these two, like thinking about whether we should just go no brainer, like text to anything, or we should just like create a pipeline that's more fitting for a professional.
Mhm.
And then like we choose to like to really to stay with the professional people. So the pipeline that you're seeing right now with us is kind of like, complex, but is much more, controllable. And for example, we're working with Hollywood. And then so one of the leading producers in Hollywood, they were saying that they think that, like some often the times there's a huge gap between technology and what the people in the industry or domain specific industries they actually need. And then
Mhm.
like especially in the Hollywood, there's always people who's wondering, like VFX people or the people that's leading, the leading the whole designing procedure. They were just wondering like why there's no tool that can read our mind that can help us just to create one thing and the thing and the thing and then like help them like put together to a 3D. And we're actually the tool for that. So maybe
Mhm.
it is a little bit complex, but that's actually the controllable, like level
Mhm.
that they want.
Mhm. So you see Hollywood as being like kind of in entertainment, like the best area, one of the best areas for this. How do you plan on really getting this out there and having it be used more for movies and for TV shows? And what do you think it's going to take to make that happen?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a long and hard process. And like it comes to my persona too. Like we just wanted to push things harder and harder until it works and push things, an inch forward. Like it was all like news were kind of just all around the world saying that Hollywood would not adopt the AI and then like they will not use the AI. And we were pretty scared when we're talking to the Hollywood people too. Like we were all sweating around. But then I think like sometimes it's really about if you find the right solution to the right problem. And if you really like wanted to tell them that, hey, we all both need to revolutionize. On our side, we need to revolutionize on our pipeline, the ethical training part, the data sources, and like how we approach the solution. On their side, they also need to take revolutionize on how do they also adapt their workflow so that they could do things much more better. So for example, for one of the shows that we're working on, they, like without the technology, they could really make it with it like in 2, 3, 4 years, and with like 200 million or 300 million budget. But with really like the AI and the help of the technology, I think this can help them accelerate the process much more and could really help them use the technology into the TV show with the proper with addressing the proper ethical questions.
Mhm. So you really think that this can replace like full scenes that may have needed to be shot, like you can just do them through AI digitally?
I don't think we can replace if so this debate so this is actually two questions. If we can replace the full thing, yes, I
Mhm.
do. If this can replace human, no, I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
Because replacing the thing, yes, it is like why not? If it's like such a long logistic to manually create things, then we definitely wanted to help them to accelerate the process by just a few codes. But if it's human, then not, because we still need to closely work with the like the Hollywood. And we were sometimes saying to ourselves that we can probably be the new head of design or something. We need to talk to their head of VFX. We need to talk to their producers. Like we need to know what they're actually like thinking when it comes to creating the script. So it has to be like two-sided work.
Uh-huh. What do you think the cost saving potential is with your technology? Like, because like some of these scenes are really intense to create, cost a lot to make. I've been to the headquarters of Paramount. I've seen what kind of goes into these things.
You
Is it
do.
really like you can save a substantial amount of money through AI making these scenes?
What is your experience in Paramount?
I just went there on a tour to check it out. I happen to have a relative that was the head of Paramount at one point that did the
Yeah,
Godfather movies, so I have a little
yeah,
bit of
yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. I think so for AI right now, I don't think AI can do everything, that's for sure. Still it's a development process. But then for some of the things, it can definitely help with the, accelerate the time and then the cost because like sometimes you don't really need logistics, a lot of the logistics there, and you don't need like, people to like manually put all the, like all the green walls or, like something like that. So definitely we can save some cost. And I believe that going forward, the cost of the AI is also dramatically will go down given the new technology that we're evolving.
Yeah. So we talked about like entertainment and the potential in the entertainment space. Like, what are some of the other areas that you're most focused on, Cecilia, that you think are like the big areas that this applies to?
Oh, a lot. I personally am a big believer of humanoid robot. Like we
Mm,
talked about in the very first beginning, I am such a believer in the humanoid robot and drones and all the robot related technologies. So I definitely think that robots still right now needs a lot of data. Whether we say manipulation data, which is the data like the behavior correlations in the environment, or the pure like the video data that's taking 3D as an input to control the video like output format. So I definitely think that this is a big area that still needs a lot of training data and also the data for evaluating if the robots is doing the right thing or not. So that's one part for me. The other
mhm,
part, which autonomous driving vehicles also is very important too, because like so far we've seen the growing of robot like of
mhm,
Waymo, in San Francisco and and then Los Angeles area, and we believe that this is still definitely a growing market. So the more cities that the Waymo will be expanding to, or like other autonomous driving vehicle cars, the more data they will need. Simulations to the city, simulations to different behaviors, simulation to different, correlations between pedestrians and the transportations. So yeah, that this is all like big areas for us to next step move to.
mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of places that this can clearly apply to. It means autonomous driving is just becoming more and more important, and it looks like we're pretty close to the point where it's going to be really viable for people to be a main form of transportation. So definitely exciting to see what can happen there. What would you say is kind of your roadmap at this point? Like your most immediate short-term goals, some of the long-term goals you have, and what's the big picture vision for this company?
Yeah, so we definitely in the future wanted to make sure that uh, we can serve for any professional, like any professional scenarios when they need 3D simulation, when they need high quality, when they need like accurately to simulate the whole environment there. An example that I usually give is that right now there are still a lot of the corner cases that we have to solve in autonomous driving vehicles in terms of like the movement between or correlations between pedestrians and transportations there. So if we could use our technology to help with a lot of the corner cases and accurately simulate them all, then that's a big thing for us. That's also a big thing for the industry, and we wanted to help that with our technology there. So that's definitely on our roadmap. Like I said, we wanted to solve all the cases in the future that's related to like 3D simulation professional generation. And we believe it's a growing and it's a huge market, not only for spatial intelligence model for the future, but also serve for the next generation of the foundational model in the future too.
Mhm. So you've been doing also like a lot of speaking about what you're building. You were at a couple different important events. I think recently of that through pretty recently overall. What would you say has kind of been your main focus when it comes to like communicating what you're building? How are you trying to just get this more adopted through some of the ways you've been talking at different events? Like how do you target industry professionals that maybe don't know too much about AI and explain to them what you're doing?
That's a great question. Um, so I think when I started the company,
Hmm.
back to 2022, it's like 3D is still one of the space that, like some people, they don't realize the importance of it,
Hmm.
to be honest.
Hmm.
So that time is actually pretty hard to really, tell everybody in the world that, like this is one of the very, very most important problem to be solved. But I think that with the help of the entire industry, honestly, it's you can see that more and more and more people they actually start to realize the importance of it. So I don't think it is like I can be able to just be the only person to help with speaking and making people realize, oh, we need a professional solution there. It's actually the industry effort. For example, NVIDIA is moving to Omniverse, and Adobe in the CES was talking about the importance in the video generation using 3D and image generation. And for example, Hollywood, they're also evolving themselves to realize the importance of AI there too. Gaming industry definitely there, has been doing all the revolutions. So I think it's actually a joint force. So and I wanted to be the one who's representing the professional grade, which is the path that we're taking, not only from the research, the technology, but also from the the customers that we're representing.
I mean, I was at the NVIDIA keynote at CES. I don't know if you were there. I got to meet Jensen after, but it was quite a keynote, and the chips that they unveiled were very impressive. How important do you think that that's going to be to what you've been able to accomplish so far? I mean, we're seeing rapid developments, but do you really need the same type of compute that we're seeing companies like OpenAI with ChatGPT or XAI with Grok? Like, is that, I mean, maybe not the same scale, but do you really need massive compute to make this something that can be mainstream and just scaled out much further?
We also definitely do too. And
Mhm.
the more scale that we wanted to get, whether in terms of like the model size or in terms of the result, the quality result we wanted to achieve in the 3D, definitely, and then the storage too, because 3D like it tends to be like heavy. Definitely like we're facing the same problem as all the other industry folks.
It's an expensive problem.
It is, but we're also believing that it's a huge market too.
Yeah, and it seems like no one can get their hands on these GPUs and other chips. It's very difficult. Uh, But you're pretty young to be doing this so far, and it's definitely impressive to see what you've accomplished. Is this something like right now, like you view this as, we can really transform some of the industries we're at, and you want to, this is like kind of the long term vision for you personally. Like, what do you kind of want to accomplish right now, like just overall in life? Like, what are your most important things you've been looking at?
Oh, in terms of life, I was just talking this yesterday
Yeah,
with Roland Emmerich, which is a producer in the Hollywood, because they asked me the same question too,
yeah,
and I said from like a human being perspective,
uh-huh.
definitely in my lifetime, I wanted to achieve something more, to have like much more greater impact to human
Hmm.
in general in this planet. And there are many problems that we still have to solve. 3D is one of the very important problem at this stage.
Hmm.
But then going forward, there's many other problems. Example would be, we know quantum physics there, and then there's robot problems, and there's chips, and maybe controllable nuclear technology,
Yeah.
and energy problem there too. So definitely in the longer term, given what my DNA is coming from Google X, I want to solve bigger problem. And for now, what I envision is that if I could really bring the 3D technology in the industry to another level, where more important, like more problem they can get a solution from the
Mhm.
from what I've been building on. And actually this can be benefit to many industries like entertainment and robots, like drones, like the autonomous driving vehicles, then that is my mission there. So I think overall I'm a problem solver, and I wanted to solve problems, and I wanted to solve like one after another. So that's my life mission.
That's awesome. Well, that was all the questions that I had, Cecilia. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think it's great that you're really ambitious and you're young and ambitious, and we need a lot more people like you and that really have big goals and are making serious progress towards those goals and goals that benefit the world, that benefit humanity. I think that's incredibly exciting what you're working on over here, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the success you're going to continue to have and what's next. So appreciate you doing this, and thanks for coming on.